A verdict of obedience of the Sharia court on a disobedient Muslim wife. This is a love story that was written in English and translated into Arabic by Dr. A. Ahmed. Copyright. All rights are reserved. All characters in this book are fictional and any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author except by a reviewer who may quote brief paragraphs in a review to be printed in a newspaper, magazine, school journal, or university article. This story is about 3 Muslim girls who were subjected to gross injustice, severe violence, and abhorrent persecution by Muslim men, religious leaders, Sharia court judges, and police officers in the Islamic community and the religion of Islam and its misogynistic, hateful, and abusive teachings against women's rights, which are innumerable. For example, beating of women, polygamy, child marriage, circumcision of the private parts of small Muslim girls, which is known as female genital mutilation or FGM, slaying them in honor killings, inequality between males and females in inheritance, testimony in court, marriage, divorce, men's guardianship over women, controlling their lives and destinies as if they are minors, physically handicapped or mentally retarded, and forcing them to wear the hijab, niqab, or the humiliating burqa, which makes them appear as if they are scary ghosts. Muslim men are allowed by the Quran to have sex or rather rape without the need for marriage captive women of war such as wives, daughters, sisters, and even mothers of the defeated enemies who are called unclean infidels such as Jews, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, etc. Islam forbids a Muslim woman to become a president of a country or a boss at work or a judge in court, and she is strictly forbidden to lead men or women in prayer as an imama. Moreover, the Prophet Muhammad said the woman is an unclean creature just like a dog and a donkey, and therefore as a defiled being she annuls the man's prayer if she passes in front of him while he is praying. The Quran likens the woman to the human feces which spoils the man's ablution or religious cleansing. Many Islamic countries prevent women from going to school and work, and they are not permitted to drive cars, bicycles, or motorbikes. And none of them is allowed to leave the house without her husband or with a muharram man the woman is forbidden to marry, such as her father or brother. They are forbidden to practice any kind of sports, such as soccer, basketball, volleyball, and tennis, and they are not allowed to go to gymnastics, beaches or swimming pools, cinemas, or theaters, or act as heroines in movies or actors in the stage in plays or be female singers, or compete in beauty contests such Miss World or Miss Universe. They cannot compete in the FIFA Women's World Cup of soccer or football because Islam doesn't allow them to reveal their heads, hairs, faces, hands, shoulders, legs, thighs, and hips or put short pants like men because each Muslima woman is a wara or naked creature. They are not permitted to be reciters of the verses of their holy Quran because the Prophet Muhammad said the woman is a wara or naked and her voice is a wara too. He also said the woman comes in the form of Satan and retreats in the shape of the devil. Muslim women are also not allowed to fall in love with Muslim men before marriage or choose their future husbands or life partners. This story is about the 3 innocent Muslim girls, Intisar, Firdaus, and Mona. Chapter 74. The runaway Muslim wife at Khartoum International Airport. At exactly 1 p.m., the Christian bride, Intisar, came out of the makeup room, followed by her Coptic friend, Suzanne. Every member of the family is amazed to see her. She no longer has the same face, hair, dress, or even the gait she used to walk. Even her groom Sammy might not have recognized her if he had seen her elsewhere. She no longer resembles the Muslim girl he fell in love with at first sight in the Cinema Al-Wataniya at Gaddarf City. She is more beautiful than any actress in a successful American Hollywood film or the superstar heroine of an Indian Bollywood hit movie. Even Miss World has to accept whether or not she agrees to the second place next to her. She is more beautiful than the nymph of paradise, sweeter than a queen in a fairy tale, and more gorgeous than Alginia, the bride of the Nile River. She is the most beautiful of all Disney princesses in Hollywood movies. She is beautiful beyond description, too marvelous, gorgeous, hot, and very sexy. In short, her beauty is unparalleled, and the human tongue cannot describe it. She wore a very tight short that looked like half pants, something that no Sudanese Muslim girl would do, even if she became a prostitute or a shakshuka or the last person in the world. Even a Muslim girl who is thrown alone on a secluded island and knows that no man will see her may not wear such a revealing outfit. By the way, some fanatical Muslim girls turn off the lights in the bathroom and toilet before they open their underwear and reveal their private parts and show their breasts, buttocks, and pussy. Each of them believes that a male jinni or one of the devils can see her private parts, such as her pussy, hair, ass, buttocks, breasts, and nipples, and fuck her without her knowledge. It is forbidden for a Muslim woman to reveal her nakedness to any male creature, even if it is spiritual or demonic. There is a common belief in the Islamic world that sons of Satan and daughters of the devil come at night to have sex with teenage girls and boys while they sleep. Anyway, the dress that Intisar is wearing does not fully cover the sexy parts of her thighs, hips, buttocks, and her breasts. Her top dress clings to her body in the kind of outfit known as a hugging dress. Her buttocks in those short and tight pants became too big and too wide. So, they would attract even the holiest cleric in the entire universe. Half of her pomegranate-shaped breasts jut out from her completely bare shoulders. Any wrong move may expose her big breasts and expose their nipples. Also, in the case of the wrong forward bend, her large buttocks will also appear as if she is wearing a small bikini in the swimming pool or on a beach of Miami in America or Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro, at Brazil, revealing her sexy black underwear. Next comes the face. Her cheeks were decorated like a pair of fresh apples. Her sweet lips are covered with red lipstick. Her eyelashes are golden in color. A small golden ring was inserted into her left nostril, which is called the zomum. 2 large gold rings hung from her ears. Her eyebrows are crescent-shaped. Around her bare neck, which is like a bottle of ghee, hangs a golden chain. The chain bears a large golden cross. It hangs down, passes over the half-naked chest, and stops slightly under the almost fully visible big boobs. Her hair is styled and cut very evenly and falls down to her waist. A beautiful red artificial rose attached to her long black hair. We have mentioned almost everything except the shirt and the shoes. What the beautiful and sexy bride Intisar wears is neither a shirt nor a blouse. Also, we cannot call it a short-sleeve collarless shirt. It is something that only the Ethiopian young women and the Eritrean girls wear. I have no slight idea what they call it. Just let's call it sexy and cute lady shirt. If you know a sexy Ethiopian girl or an attractive Eritrean chick, she might tell you what they call it in Amharic and Tigrinya languages. Everything Intisar wears is a sexy and short except for the shoes. She wears sexy tall boots that a girl can only buy online from High Heel Mania or bad clothing websites. They are long and sexy and covering half of her legs. There are many fine details about her body, her face, her hair, her clothes, her jewelry, and her shoes, but we have to get past them and head straight to the international airport to see her off. If we were forced to describe every inch in tedious detail or minuscule detail, we would surely miss the great rapture or snatch of the last day of the Christian bride Intisar in Khartoum City, or what was once called the disobedient Muslim wife fleeing from the rule of obedience and being left behind in the kingdom of Tartus, or the Islamic Republic of Satan, which euphemistically known as the Democratic Republic of Sudan. Suffice it to say that her Coptic friend Suzanne applied all her talents, disguised Intisar, and turned her into a completely different girl. Even the smart lawyer Sulla could not succeed to such a skillful extent in transforming her from a Sudanese Muslim girl into an Ethiopian Christian girl when he disguised her sexy feminine appearance in a handsome boy on the night of her escape from the spies of the rejected lover, Hassan, and from the policemen who were supposed to arrest her and transfer her by force on the next day to the House of Obedience, where she was supposed to be raped and imprisoned until death set her free from her bondage. Simply put, the smart Coptic girl has succeeded in transforming her Arab friend into a very beautiful and sexy Abyssinian Christian girl. By the way, Suzanne works in the evenings in a beauty salon, and during the day she goes to her school. She is in the 11th grade, and she is 18 years old. In fact, she is 7 months older than Intisar. She also goes to tennis and basketball practices on the weekends. She is a very talented girl in her studies and work. She is also a talented girl in music, plays the guitar, and sings in the church choir. She is an excellent tennis and basketball player. In a short time, Suzanne was able to transfer many of these talents to her friend Intisar. Meanwhile, the two ugly spies, Nisar and Yeager, spent the whole night sleeping in shifts near the Coptic family home. When the sun rose and reached midday in the middle of the sky, they sought refuge under the shade of a Nima tree on a large street. They were tired of watching the house in question without seeing any familiar-faced person entering or leaving it. They become very angry with their leader, Tia, for making them sleep like chickens on ropes all night while he sleeps comfortably in the bed in a small room in a cheap motel. They have decided to tell their boss that if no one like the crazy young Sammy or the disobedient runaway Muslim wife Intisar comes out by the end of the day, they will leave their duty of espionage so that if he has to expel them or kill them, they will not spend another night in front of the house of the infidel Christians. The spies are simply tired of watching the house of those damned infidel cops. Anyway, by 1:15 p.m., Yeager and Nisar saw two unknown-to-them persons come out of the house with a large suitcase in their hands. The two people are an old man and a handsome young man. They put the heavy bag into a big car. Then they went back to their place and disappeared again into the house. The two spies had accurately guessed that someone or some people would travel from that Coptic house. A few minutes later, they saw one of the two men, a handsome young man, walk out of the same house, while two teenage girls followed him. The two girls are very beautiful. One of the two girls caught their attention and interest. She appeared to them as a very beautiful Indian movie superstar heroine. "What a beautiful and hot girl," shouted Nisar. "She is more beautiful than a virgin of paradise." Then his yellow teeth and ugly lips whistled. "Who is this movie star girl?" Geiger asks. "I don't know who she is," said the eagle Nisar, "but I wish she was in my arms tonight." "Do you think she looks like the runaway Muslim wife Intisar in disguise?" asked the big rat Geiger. "No Sudanese chick can come close to her exquisite beauty. Her face, hair, clothes, and sexy body look like an Ethiopian girl." "What made you think that?" "Ethiopian girls are a mixture of Italian colonials and Yemeni immigrants, and that is why they do not look like our Sudanese women who are half African and half Arab. Besides, no Muslim girl can go out of her house naked in this way. Her Muslim father, brother, or husband will cut her half-exposed naked body into bits and pieces in honor killing. Only Ethiopian Christian girl can go down the street half-naked like that hot Abyssinian girl. And do you think we need to report to our wicked boss, the ugly Tia Coco Wad al-Shaitan, about her and the other girl? The other girl is a Christian chick. I can bet on that. Her blonde hair, green eyes, skinny jeans, and sleeveless top speak loud and clear that she is a Coptic damsel. I think we are wasting our precious time standing here watching the cop's house." "You are right, Nisar. Let's just call it another failure and a waste of our precious time and energy." When the two spies came to this conclusion, they saw the large car start moving towards the main street, and within minutes it disappeared from their sight. Once the car was gone, the two spies called their boss, Tia, and told him about the wise conclusion they had reached. However, the dangerous leader, the firstborn of the son of Iblis Coco Wad al-Shaitan, strongly rejected their decision and ordered them to continue watching in front of the Christian infidel's house. At first, Yeager and Nisar begin to challenge their ruthless leader's decision, but when the latter threatens their lives, the watch continues. By the way, the name Yeager means big mouse or huge rat, and the other name Nisar means flying hawk or eagle, or as it is called in Sudan, Alsanvaria Kadam. The real name of their leader, Tia, is Jabberwock. On the day he was born, his mother gave him this name. His biological father is Coco Wad al-Shaitan, and his Muslim mother, who works a prostitute and liquor saleswoman in night bar or a brothel now, is called Kusum al-Arab. Her name means fuck the pussy of the Arabs. She gave her son this name, Jabberwock, but the gang changed it to Tia. In Sudanese folklore fairy tales, Jabberwock is the name of a little black demon who was born as a human child. It is like the name of Daldum, the chief of demons of the imprisoned usurper the witch Dr. Hajj Muhammad. Each name has no meaning in Arabic or any other human language. Let's translate them to the great Satan for the grand spy Tia and the devil to the shadow of death Mr. Daldum, because both men fulfill the job descriptions of the dragon and beast mentioned in the book of Revelation in the Holy Bible. After being scolded by the scary Beelzebub, Tia, the frightened rat Jaeger, and the ugly falcon Neser acquiesced to the threats. Having their lives threatened by their ruthless ringleader, they occupied the shade of the same Nema tree, sat down, and resumed watching the Coptic dwelling carefully. Beelzebub in the Hebrew language means prince of demons, and in the Aramaic language means prince of flies. I prefer applying both meanings to the great spy, Tia, because his biological father is Koko Wad al-Shaitan, the commander of the bodyguards in Al-Gadarif Central Prison. As we have previously met him in Barak number 13, which is inhabited by demons and jinn, Koko Wad al-Shaitan meaning the firstborn son of Satan. These three spies are like devils and flies, who kept chasing and hovering around the two lovers, Intisar and Sammy, and followed them everywhere they went or hid, as if they were goblins or their black shadows. The old serpent, Osman Satan al-Taib, who had recently been released from the barren abyss, pays them dearly in their spy services. After being acquitted of his heinous crimes and released from the bottomless pit, the evil old man summoned his spies to his luxurious room at the Sheraton International Hotel and ordered them to continue the search. Before sending them, he told them that he would not stop the meticulous and painstaking search until he sent the filthy prostitute, the poor girl, and the disobedient runaway Muslim wife, Intisar, to the house of obedience to her lawful husband, Hassan. But in his dark heart and his hidden bitter hatred, he decided to kill her and bury her body in a pit near the grave of her evil sister Firdaus, who made 2 attempts to kill him during his attempt to rape her on their honeymoon in his luxurious room at the 5-star Hilton International Hotel. The lustful old man married the beautiful nurse, Miss Zakia Karamala. She became his wife number 4 and is also a surrogate for his late Muslim wife Firdaus Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, whom he raped to death. So, he is now enjoying his honeymoon with his sexy new bride at the most expensive and beautiful international hotel in Khartoum. Zakia was 22 years old when she married the 72-year-old wealthy geezer Usman Shaitan al-Taib. Despite the 50 years of difference between them, the greedy, corrupt nurse married the vile old man because of his great fortune. For 3 nights, he could not have sex with her big open pussy, even though he had swallowed several Viagra pills. Sexy nurse Zakia is a twice-divorced high-profile prostitute who goes to bed with any rich man, no matter how old or ugly, like a monkey or a pig. She's a whore like a bitch who has too many dogs for sex for pay. The evil old man is her husband number 3. Meanwhile, as the big car was heading towards Khartoum International Airport, the eyes of the beautiful and sexy Christian bride, Intisar, looked through the window at the streets and the people. She saw every person walking in the street as a threat to her life. She fears that the car will have an accident and then she will be taken to the hospital. There she might be identified and arrested. She knows the evils that could befall her if the police discover her apostasy from Islam, her conversion to Christianity, and her secret Christian marriage. She carries in her bag her Christian water baptism and marriage certificate. Intisar immediately dismissed such an unnecessary and inappropriate fear. She remembered how her good Christian family had worked diligently and sincerely to obtain for her and her lover Sammy refugee documents, resettlement immigrant visas in Canada, and free airline tickets. They also prayed fervently every day for their safety and encouraged them with many verses from the Holy Bible. Intisar told her friend Susan if she was born a Christian, she would not have left her and her family and fled from Sudan to Canada. She was going to spend her whole life in their church and enjoy living with her good brothers and sisters in the Lord Jesus Christ and loving Coptic family members. The memory of the immigrant Christian bride, Intisar, was transmitted from her righteous Christian brothers and sisters, and she began to remember wandering aimlessly in the streets of the capital city without shelter, food, money, and shoes when she was a Muslim wife fleeing from the rule of obedience and law enforcement officers. Her tears started to fall like hot water from her beautiful eyes onto her smooth apple-like cheeks. She took out her handkerchief and started wiping away those tears. She wonders what her condition would be like today if she was raped by the two human sex predators, the obese man Bulbul and Major Sanusi. Or what would have happened to her if she had not escaped from the two fat policemen who arrested her on the road while she was sitting without shoes and without committing any crime. Or if she was stoned to death by the angry mob who mistook her for a zombie or a boogie woman, she rose from her grave as a ghost on the third day after her burial. Or if she was hit by bullets from the two guarding soldiers in front of the military base. Or if she drowned in the waters of the Nile River and died on the Sunday in which she attempted suicide. She knows if one of these evils had happened to her, she would not have met such loving people as her Coptic friend Susan and her Christian family. Nor would she have spent those wonderful days with the love of her life, Sammy, during their long honeymoon. She wouldn't have had such fun and sex with her handsome groom. As a wedding gift, her friend Susan gave her a book on sex that teaches countless sexual positions. As a virgin bride with her handsome groom, they have explored and applied together all these wonderful sexual ways. She never knew that sex between two passionate lovers would be such a fun and wonderful experience. Not only did the beautiful and sexy bride enjoy them with her handsome groom, but she learned some of them as her school courses and memorized them like she memorized the verses of the Holy Quran when she was a Muslim girl. She has learned the missionary sex position, pancake pose, legs on shoulders style, stairway to heaven position, sex style of 69, the spread eagle sex pose, the canine sex position or doggy sex style, which is Sammy's favorite sex position. Access to heaven sex position, and of course her favorite cowgirl sex technique. The one when she climbs naked like a cowgirl on top of a horse and sits on the naked body of her lover Sammy and fucks him with her small pussy and he fucks her with his big dick. The two lovers also explored some of the sex techniques in the classic Hindu Kama Sutra religious books that were used by Indian Maharaja kings to have sex with their beautiful Maharani queens. The beautiful immigrant bride became very aroused and got wet in her pussy and soaked her tiny swimsuit panties or small underwear as she remembered the hot honeymoon nights in the hotel room she enjoyed with her handsome groom Sammy. After that, she changed the course of her thoughts, and the immigrant Christian girl, Intisar, began to think about her new life with her immigrant boyfriend, Sammy, in the Promised Land in Canada. For them, Sudan is a land of bitter experiences and abuse, while Canada is a land overflowing with milk and honey. She wishes that the big car would suddenly grow wings and fly out of her home country and land in her new world. The wife Intisar imagined herself sitting next to her husband, Sammy, on the plane in Frankfurt International Airport. His arms surround her as she sleeps on his shoulder. She will be safe in his hands. She feels very sad that she will miss her friend, Susan. In a short time, Intisar became part of that loving Christian family. They did for her everything a family could do for their daughter. She remembered how bitterly her new Christian mother Sarah and spiritual father Mata Hannah had wept when she kissed them her last goodbyes. The immigrant girl Intisar also remembered the urgent phone call in the middle of the night from Sulla and Mona and how upset the whole family was. They spent many hours trying to find a safe haven for her and her husband. She feels very sad that she will not meet their best friends, the groom, Sulla, and his bride, Mona, anymore. They said their goodbyes on the phone. They also told them that they had decided not to come and see them off at the international airport for their own safety and protection. Intisar's memory also takes her back to her Muslim mother Sarah. She feels very sorry for her mother. She learned through her half-sister, Badriya, that her mother had become very ill after her daughter Intisar ran away from home on the night of her travel while she was sitting on sacks of grain on a truck to Khartoum City. When her mother Sarah regained her health, she now lives with a broken heart. In a short time, she lost her daughter Firdos, her only son Osman, and finally her runaway daughter Intisar. Her younger sister was brutally murdered by the evil old man Osman al-Taib, who bound her like an animal, starved her, beat her, and raped her to death. Her brother Osman committed suicide when he failed to protect the honor and life of his sister Firdaus. Intisar started to shed hot tears when she realized that she was the main reason for her family's suffering. Her strong and unwavering love for the rich man's son has brought all those evils to her innocent family members. Despite this, the immigrant bride, fleeing the verdict of obedience, thanked God when she remembered that her older sister, Farida, was still working as a translator in a good company in Abu Dhabi and supporting her mother. Her sister sacrificed a lot and prevented herself from marrying and having children in order to care for and support her mother Sarah, her brother Osman, and her two sisters, Intisar and Firdaus. She said time and again it was her heart's desire to see all her siblings successfully complete their studies and become well-paid employees, then marry and settle down. For that reason, the good sister Frida rejected many marriage proposals and remained faithful to her promise to take care of her siblings until they all stood on their feet. Once in Canada, Intisar decided to write a long letter and tell her dear sister Frida how she had suffered 3 days and 3 nights in the streets of Khartoum. She will tell her how God saved her life from drowning in the waters of the Nile River and brought her to the Christian church and to the home of a loving Coptic family. She will then tell her about her bridegroom, Sammy, their happy wedding, the wonderful honeymoon they enjoyed together, and the same good Coptic Christians who helped them achieve that goal that seemed impossible. She decided to convince her husband, Sammy, that if God blessed them with a daughter and a son, they should name them Firdaus and Osman. She wants to keep the memories of her late sister and late brother with her throughout her life, wherever she goes in the world. As the immigrant bride indulges in these thoughts, her friend Suzanne, the Coptic girl, suddenly draws her attention that they have arrived at Khartoum International Airport. Intisar took out her handkerchief and wiped her tears. Then Suzanne told her to come down and leave her friend Andre to get her bag. She got out of the car, and the Coptic friend carried the heavy bag across the street, and the two best friends walked with him towards the departure hall. Intisar carries a small handbag over her shoulder. Inside her handbag were her travel documents, 2 baptismal and secret Christian marriage certificates, and a few US dollars. When they reached the entrance hall, Andre told his sweetheart, Suzanne, that airport security would not allow them to accompany her friend anymore. When the two girlfriends Intisar and Susan realized it was time to say goodbye, they hugged each other and started crying bitterly. The Coptic boyfriend Andre has to separate them from each other. Then he held Intisar's hand, shook her hand warmly, bid her farewell, encouraged her to move forward, and wished her a safe and happy flight to Canada. Tears flood her eyes as she walks half-blind. Her steps are slow and her heart heavy with sadness. She is so sad to leave a dear, wonderful friend like Suzanne. Intisar is now walking half-blind in the departure hall because of her many tears. At first, she walked aimlessly for a while. Then she remembered Andre telling her that she might miss her flight if she didn't hurry up. But she doesn't know where to go next. She has not traveled outside her country before. Then Intisar stopped an employee at the airport and asked her where she was supposed to go. The employee told her first that she should stand in one of the departing passenger lines, weigh her luggage, and then go to the police check. Her body was sweating. The word police made her heart beat faster with fear. Then she stood in a short line and weighed her heavy bag. When her bulky bag was taken away from her, it lightened her burden. Her big bag contains all her clothes and those of her lover. Before the sudden change that occurred at midnight, the immigrant lovers decided to use 2 separate suitcases to carry their clothes and other things. After deciding late at night, they were advised by the Coptic family members not to use different suitcases. So, they used one big bag. It is the same heavy bag that the bride, Intisar, brought with her. It holds all of their clothes together. The groom, Sammy, will not have a suitcase with him when he comes in the evening to take his direct flight from Sudan to Germany. After weighing and taking the heavy bag from her, Intisar now has nothing but her small handbag. Then an international airport employee told her to go for a police officer check and then go straight to her outbound flight and enjoy a safe and happy flight to Canada. The frightened girl was encouraged by the kind words of the man at the international airport who weighed her luggage. As a result, she is now walking with some confidence towards the place of the police check. When Intisar got to the police checkpoint, she saw two lines. In one line, she saw 3 male passengers standing together, and in the other line, there was a single female passenger standing alone. The immigrant Christian bride walked towards the woman and stood behind her. As soon as she got behind the female passenger, an ugly police inspector in his khaki uniform approached her and said in a gruff voice like an ogre, "Would you please, miss, come with me?" The teenage girl Intisar immediately started trembling. She tried to speak, but her voice let her down. Her throat was dry and her body was shaking and sweating. A great fear arose within her heart. The police inspector put his rough hand on her tender shoulder, patted her, and said, "Young miss, you have no reason to be afraid of me. It's just a routine police check that happens at every international airport." Intisar felt some encouragement from his words, but continued to look at him suspiciously. "Move outside the line and please, miss, come quickly with me, or you might miss your flight. I told you it was just a quick police check and nothing to worry about." Once again, the immigrant bride who was immigrating outside her motherland felt some relief, especially after the policeman mentioned that it was just a routine police check. She walked with him and followed him silently, as if she was a detainee being led by the police to detention. The officer took her behind the police barricade and showed her some bags and asked her to identify which of them was her luggage. She looked at the few bags lying there and said in a stuttering voice, "My bag is not among them, sir. May I look at your passport and visa?" "I don't have a passport, sir. I am traveling on an emergency travel document from the Red Cross office." "So, you're an Eritrean refugee girl, am I right?" "Yes, I am a refugee, sir. May I look at your official travel papers?" With trembling hands, Intisar opened her small handbag, took her Red Cross travel document, and handed it to him. The police inspector glanced at it and handed it back to her. "Where are your asylum papers?" Intisar withdrew her refugee certificate and gave it to him. The ugly-looking police officer glanced at it and then said harshly, "Where's your police permit authorizing you to leave the refugee camp?" "What is this police permit, sir?" "I have no such permit." "How did you leave your refugee camp and reach Khartoum City?" "I may have had that permit in the past and lost those papers. In this case, you cannot travel outside Sudan unless we verify your claim." "What do you want to tell me, sir?" "I can't understand your words. You told me you probably lost those police clearance papers. We must write to your camp and check your refugee status. Maybe you are not an Eritrean refugee girl, or you are an Ethiopian young woman who's smuggled yourself illegally and crossed the border and entered Sudan. Then you worked for a while as an Abyssinian prostitute in a brothel house in Khartoum City and later falsely claimed that you were a refugee." "I swear to God, I am as I told you, sir, so please trust my words and allow me to leave the country today." "How can I trust your words without conducting the necessary police investigations? You may also be an Abyssinian girl, born and raised in Sudan to an Ethiopian family, and then lied to the United Nations office in Khartoum and falsely claimed that you were an Eritrean refugee. In this case, you are not legally entitled to apply for foreign refugee status in this country. If the Sudanese police authority in your Eritrean refugee camp confirms your claims, we can allow you to travel abroad later, but not today." "Sir, this will be a very long investigation process. Please let me travel now." "I cannot allow you to travel outside Sudan as a foreign traveler who does not have a foreign passport and claims to be an Eritrean refugee girl without a permit from the police to leave your camp. Please let me go. I should be very grateful and indebted to your kindness if you would allow me to go now and catch my flight abroad." "I'm simply sorry, miss, I can't help you. I will take responsibility for allowing you to travel without a foreign passport or those official Sudanese police permit papers that are supposed to have been issued from one of the refugee camps. I need to show copies of those legal papers to the senior officers at the immigration department in Khartoum." Intisar, the migrant bride, understood that her words might not help her in arguing with the stubborn Sudanese police officer. So, she took his hand and kissed it and begged him to let her travel out of Sudan and immigrate to her new place of resettlement in Canada. When he saw her completely at his mercy and he felt her soft hands holding his rough hand and her sweet lips kissing them, the Sudanese lawman decided to blackmail the beautiful and sexy Eritrean refugee girl. Then he said slyly, "Well, miss, I think there is a way out of this difficult situation, if you will be willing to cooperate with me." "Sure, sir. I will do anything you want me to do for you if you promise to let me go and travel abroad today. You have to cancel your flight abroad today, and then I can arrange some official papers with the permission of the Sudanese police clearance in your name tomorrow. But as I told you, you must cooperate with me." "No, sir, I am ready to cooperate with you now." The Sudanese pretty girl who disguised as a young Eritrean refugee is under the impression that the International Airport Police Inspector is a corrupt security officer who wants her to give him some foreign hard currency notes as a bribe. As a matter of fact, Intisar interpreted his phrase, "You must cooperate with me," as you must give me some foreign money which you have in your possession, and then after that I will leave you alone and allow you to catch your flight and fly out of the country. Accordingly, the beautiful and sexy immigrant Christian bride quickly opened her handbag and took out all the American dollars inside and showed them to him. "Dear sir, these are all the foreign hard currency notes that I own. Take them all and let me go." "Look, beautiful young Eritrean refugee woman, I did not ask you for money. There are many surveillance cameras in this Sudanese international airport. Therefore, I cannot take foreign money from you without putting myself and my job at risk. So, I want you to cooperate with me in a different way." "What do you mean by a different way, sir?" "I can't understand your words. Young woman, you talk to me like a little girl. How can you ask me such a silly question? You are a beautiful and sexy teenage girl, so you should understand what a man wants from a sweet and hot girl like you. You have a sexy semi-nude body that could make the holiest religious man in the whole world fall at your feet and worship your matchless beauty." When the ugly-faced and blood-stained police inspector said those lustful words, the beautiful, sexy, frightened Eritrean refugee girl saw his scary tiny, red eyes searching her half-naked body like a hungry human beast that saw a slice of fresh meat within the reach of its sharp teeth. Intisar understood that he had been overcome by an uncontrollable animalistic desire for a sexy, defenseless girl like herself. She began to back away from him step by step. Then she said to him with closed teeth, "You are not a man of the law, but you are a despicable omen." And she continued to turn away from him. At the same time, she looks at him with great fear, as if a poisonous snake is crawling quickly towards her legs, wanting to bite her. When she realized that she was out of his reach, she turned her sexy body and pretty face from his intimidating look and ran away from the police checkpoint. By then there were no other outbound passengers left. The lustful police inspector shouted loudly, "Police officers, run after her, and she must be arrested at once. She does not have police clearance papers. Her travel papers, which she has now, are all forgeries. She does not have a foreign passport or visa for any Western country." 2 policemen immediately responded to his command and ran after her. The terrified Christian immigrant bride ran aimlessly for a few minutes before the 2 policemen reached and arrested her. Then the 2 police officers dragged her like a dangerous criminal and brought her to the ugly police inspector who issued a warrant for her arrest. She is now under arrest and pretrial detention until her claim and identity as a foreign refugee fleeing from one of the Eritrean refugee camps in eastern Sudan are verified, shouted the vile and lustful Khartoum International Airport inspector. "Take her to the lockup room at the airport." Meanwhile, the immigrant bride Intisar continued to struggle violently to free herself from the hands of the 2 huge policemen. She is like an innocent lamb or a wild deer that became helpless prey between the claws of 2 tigers. She kicks them with her shoes and bites them with her teeth, but all her struggles are in vain. They are as 2 wolves, and she is like one of the female deer, so they are very strong for her. They grabbed her like a child and kept dragging her. While they held her hands and legs, her short dress was rolled up to her waist, thus her swimsuit or little black underwear became fully visible. Even her top couldn't hide her breasts. They protruded her naked breasts out of her bra, revealing her boobs and their nipples. If the two policemen had decided to take off her clothes, perhaps they would not have stripped her and exposed her in such a shameful and immoral manner in a public place such as the international airport in broad daylight, where the eyes of all foreign travelers and citizens, men, women, and their children, have seen her nakedness and nudity. In this inhumane way, the two huge police officers carried her to the airport police holding room and dumped her inside like a piece of human garbage. Unfortunately, the so-called disobedient Muslim wife, Intisar, who fled for several months from the rule of obedience, missed her flight to Doha and Frankfurt international airports because she broke the law by trying to travel outside the satanic and democratic Islamic kingdom of Tartus without permission from the police to leave her refugee camp in eastern Sudan. In the meantime, the Coptic girl Susan and her Christian friend Andre waited outside the departure hall of the international airport until they saw the Qatar Airways plane take off. Then they waved their hands at the giant plane while it was flying like a big female eagle carrying its innocent youngsters inside its stomach, for fear that the falcon, which is the symbol of Sudan, would pounce on them and swallow them in its voracious belly. Then the two Christian friends exited Khartoum's only international airport in the country. With hearts full of contrasting feelings of joy and sadness, they went to their big car. On their way back home, the Coptic girl Susan and her boyfriend Andre recalled how some of their Christian friends tried to dissuade them from helping the disobedient Muslim wife, Intisar, who is a fugitive from justice because she is an apostate girl of Islamic origins who has become a secret Christian. They told them over and over again that it was a high stakes in a strictly religious, Muslim-majority society like Sudan. If they do so and are caught by the police, they will be severely punished under Islamic law. Suzanne, her friend Andre, and her Coptic family members trusted God and did what good Christians should do to help a sister in Christ like the converted Muslim girl Intisar, the apostate who was born again through the Holy Spirit and became a Christian girl. She came to their church as a beggar looking for a living and shelter while she was then homeless, barefoot, and a disobedient wife fleeing from the verdict of obedience and therefore wanted by the police and her alleged Muslim husband, Hassan. The two Coptic lovers thought they had succeeded in sending her today outside her motherland as a beauty queen and a holy Christian bride to the promised land that overflows with milk, honey, and abundant money that can be collected from the streets in Canada like dirty rubbish scattered in every nook, corner, road, and house in Sudan like flies in millions during day and mosquitoes in the billions at night. Then the sweet Coptic girl Susan wiped away the tears of joy and sadness from her beautiful eyes when she recalled those memories of her friend, the beautiful Christian immigrant bride, Intisar. Chapter 75. A beautiful and sexy bird is flying out of the country tonight, at around 5 o'clock in the evening of the same fateful day when the Christian immigrant bride, Intisar, was arrested at Khartoum International Airport. The two spies, Nisar and Geiger, came out of their evening slumber when they saw some people coming out of the Coptic house. One of them is an elderly man with two young men. The old man and one of the two boys are the same two men who helped carry a heavy bag and put it in the large car in which the two beautiful girls left the house before. Among the three men, the two thugs Jaeger and Nisar can easily identify the handsome young man Sami Osman Al-Taib. Although he wears different outfits, the two spies understand that he is disguised as a foreign boy, an Eritrean refugee. Then the three men stopped a taxi and got into it. Immediately, the two spies also stopped another taxi and ordered the driver to follow the front cab. As the second taxi chases after the first cab, the two thugs face a dilemma. First, they try to find out if there is any connection between the beautiful movie superstar Indian heroine they had earlier seen coming out of the Coptic house in her revealing clothes and sexy semi-naked body, and the crazy boy in disguise Sammy. In strong and clear language, the spy Nisar insisted that the former beautiful girl cannot be the legally wanted, disobedient, runaway Muslim wife of Hassan Majub al-Hilali. He said even if she came back and told him I was Intisar, he wouldn't believe her. So, the spy, Nisar, strived to convince the spy, Yeager, that the beautiful and sexy half-naked infidel movie actress they had seen before emerging from the house of Coptic Christians could not be the wanted fugitive wife. But the other ugly spy, Geiger, concluded that if she is Intisar disguised as a young Ethiopian refugee girl, she must be waiting for her mad lover, Sami, at Khartoum International Airport. To avoid any problem with their dangerous boss, Tia, the two conflicting spies decided to refer the matter to him and inform him of their problem. Wherefore, at an intersection, Geiger jumped out of the taxi and allowed Nisar alone to continue following the other taxi. Big spy Tia Coco, the devil's son, was taking his evening nap with his little red eyes open and half closed in front of the Star Hotel when he heard his mobile phone ring. He put his hand in his pocket and removed the phone. He is expecting a call from the selfish rival lover. The groom, Hassan, and his new bride, Sasan, have moved into the hotel where the newly married couple, Sulla and Mona, are staying. In this way, the movements of the two married lovers were monitored both from the inside and from the outside. Yes, Hassan. Geiger, what's the problem, man? Sami is on his way to the international airport. Is Sami still alive? Is he still a crazy young man like Kay's, Manan Layla? Are you sure he doesn't look like a lunatic and acts like a moron? Who is the beautiful and sexy movie superstar Indian heroine you are talking about? How she looked in her appearance. Like the infidel, impure Christian Ethiopian girl. You are both very stupid spies. The promiscuous fugitive Muslim wife who was fucked by the cock of Sami and her hairy pussy and big ass who is still fleeing from the rule of obedience was definitely Hassan's wife Intisar. It's the same mistake we made before when she disguised as a sweet gay boy escaped into the night before our very eyes in the city of Gedaref. The old zombie Dracula Osman Al-Taib, the wicked devil, will not pay us money if he knows that she escaped disguised as an Abyssinian bitch before our eyes again. When did the madman Sami go to the airport? Then sexy Layla must have been waiting at the airport for her crazy lover Kays, who had sex with her enlarged pussy and big butt. So, you must take another taxi and rush to Khartoum airport at once. I'm on my way there too, called Nisar and told him not to let Sami shake him off or hide from him. I will bring her gay Muslim husband, Hassan Majub al-Hilali, and we will both come in the same taxi to the international airport. Well, Geiger, see you soon at the Khartoum International Airport. These last words were spoken by Chief Tia as he hurried to Hassan's room. He crossed the road as if running a 100-meter race and entered the hotel. Without getting permission from the receptionist, he started running upstairs as if he was being chased by the police. The bearded-faced receptionist man shouted behind him and ordered him to come back, but he didn't stop nor heed his angry words. When the big spy arrived at the room of the groom Hassan and the bride Sasan number 113, he knocked on the door with his big hands. A female voice, annoying and sharp as a knife, answered the knock on the door of the honeymoon room. She is the fourth innocent girl to have been brutally raped by a sexual predator as part of yet another Islamic plot for halal marriage and her virginity violently robbed. The female's voice asked with fear and trembling who was there. Open the door quickly, shouted a hoarse voice like an African hyena. Tell your fucking husband Hassan to hurry up. We must be at the international airport as soon as possible. The young bride opened the door and saw the spy Tia standing in front of the door like the angel of death. In response, she quickly closed the door in his face. She felt as if she saw Satan himself standing by his horns on his huge, ugly head. Who are you? The extremely frightened young lady shouted again. I am the devil. Get out of here before I call hotel security and tell them to kick you on your dirty butt. Silly ugly woman, say to the man who fucks your pussy every night, I am Tia Coco Wad Satan, or if you don't like my pretty name, just tell him that some important person from Mr. Osman Shaitan Al-Taib has come to meet you. But who are you? I am the angel of death who came out of hell to cut off your husband's dick and then have sex with your enlarged pussy which lost its virginity a few days ago as a result of being fucked too much. If you don't get out of here, I'll call the police too. The groom, Hassan, overhears the unpleasant conversation between his frightened bride Sasan and the leader of his gang of spies, the vulgar Tia. So, he too opened his vile mouth and shouted loudly, "My cursed and fucking second Muslim wife Sawsan, stop fighting with my good guest before I pronounce your divorce thrice at once." And then the angry husband ordered his second Muslim wife to let his important guest in. The frightened bride reopened the door and ran, standing a few meters away. Immediately, the great spy, the son of Satan, Coco, entered and began searching everywhere for the alleged husband of the so-called disobedient wife, the fleeing Intisar. "Where is your fucking husband?" "He is taking a shower." "Go get him right away before I do so and pull him out of the bathroom naked and wet. Tell him we have to fly at the speed of light to the international airport now." "Who are you?" "I am the ringleader of the 3 spies for your fucking husband, and I have an emergency case on my hands. My husband can't go with you to the international airport now. We booked our tickets to watch a beautiful Egyptian movie in the Chinese Friendship Hall." All the damned, this is women's problem. They always talk about rubbish, gossip, and empty talk that does not enrich or satisfy. Even if this is the last Arabic movie your husband will see before his death, he must cancel it and he must come with us to Khartoum International Airport because... Why do you want to take my husband to the airport? We want him to see how many people are going out of the country tonight. Do you think I'm a little girl whom you can fool her? Fucking whore, please call your gay husband and don't waste my time asking those stupid and unnecessary questions. What should I tell him? What reason would my handsome groom leave me as his beautiful new bride and go with you as 3 criminal spies to the airport? Tell him that the sweet, runaway bird has been found and is flying out of the country tonight. Who is she? Are you talking about another girl? I said that she is a female bird, not a human girl, although she is sweet, sexy, and 100 times more beautiful than you. You are talking about a young woman. My husband is not a cheater. What's wrong with you, lady? Is every female bird a human woman? There are no females among birds and animals. Would you take me to a stupid, moron, and dumb wife? You are a vile, degenerate, petty, asshole, or else you wouldn't waste my time trying to convince me that the male birds had no females to fuck them in their hairy pussies. If they don't have sex with their females, how can they get their young ones? You are not a man of good morals. You must be some kind of pimp who came to take my faithful husband to have sex for money with a whore in a brothel in Khartoum to spoil his good morals and make him a scum like you rotten guy. I told you, daughter of the dog, and daughter of the harem, that I am not talking about another woman. I'm talking about a beautiful, sexy female bird flying out of this country tonight. No, you're talking about a whore. I must know who that beautiful and sexy young woman is before I agreed with my good husband to go with you to Khartoum Airport. Is she his disobedient, rebellious, and runaway damned first wife, Intisar? Leader Tia was disturbed by the arguments of the second Muslim wife of Hassan, who was harmful and ugly, and therefore he opened his big mouth as if he was going to swallow her alive like a hungry crocodile and shouted loudly, "Hassan Majub al-Halali, the beautiful and sexy bird that ran away from you, my 2 men Jaeger and Nisar was spotted today by them. She's flying out of the country tonight. Hurry up or you'll never see her again and taste her honey." These disturbing words made Sazan's groom and the alleged husband of Intisar Hassan fly out of the bathroom like an eagle that escaped from its cage. He is only wearing his underwear and nothing else. He first ran to a large bag, opened it, and then snatched a shirt and pants from it. In a matter of seconds, these 2 pieces of sewn cloth hung on his wet body like a clothes hanger. He put on his shoes, but forgot to put on his socks. Then he opened one of his other small bags and found some official papers of great importance in the beautiful and exciting case of the fugitive bird, which is flying tonight out of the Democratic Republic of Satan. In fact, he became very upset in his heart when he learned that she was flying out of the kingdom of Tartarus forever, and he may not get a chance to taste the sweetness and honey of her small virgin pussy even once. Therefore, he concludes he may not see her unmatchable beauty, have sex with her sexy body, and suck and lick her honey and fuck her pussy, even once in his life, if she flies outside the land of suffering and persecution. Then he slipped those official papers into his pocket and shouted, "Let's go, Tia." The 2 men rushed towards the door, But Mrs. Al-Halali blocked their way and tried to prevent her cheating husband from leaving her in the hotel room during their honeymoon and going to sleep with the pussy of her rival, the beautiful and sexy teenage girl, Intisar. "I also want to come with you," cried the new bride angrily. "This is an impossible request. You will spoil everything if you come with us. I have to come to the international airport and see the beautiful and sexy girl who made you act crazy in front of your new bride, running around the room without clothes and wearing shoes without socks." Hassan understood that he wasted a lot of time dressing the way his second wife had described him and about her unnecessary argument with Tia over whether the fugitive beauty was a human female or a female bird. And if he had to take off his shoes and put on his stockings and persuade her, then the beautiful, sexy, fugitive female sparrow would fly out, and then he would never dream of enjoying her sweetness and beauty. And so, he stretched forward his right hand and took hold of his ugly and obstinate new bride's shoulder and pulled her into the room. While his right hand is dragging the fat body of his angry second wife, his left hand is trying to remove the huge body of Tia, the devil's son, from the room. He miraculously succeeded in performing these two impossible tasks. Then he ran out of the room, leaving his angry bride, Sasan, screaming at the top of her voice, cursing him, and insulting the alleged pimp who had come to take him to her rival, the beautiful Intisar, or to a sexy Abyssinian whore in a brothel house in Khartoum City. After that, the selfish and lustful groom, Hassan, closed the door of room 113 in the face of his obese, ugly bride, Sasan. Immediately, he took a key from his pocket and locked her inside. He does not care if his second wife committed suicide in his absence or was burned alive by the fire or bleeding to death in case of an accident. Hassan and Tia entered Khartoum International Airport, rushing like two passengers about to miss their flight abroad. The two other ugly spies, Nisar and Jaeger, saw them and ran to meet them. In short, tell them the whereabouts of the beloved, the competitor for the heart of the sweet and amazing sparrow, the disobedient Muslim wife Intisar who is fleeing from the verdict of obedience of the Sharia court. He is Sami Osman al-Taib, Kays al-Majnoun who found his missing beloved Arab girl Layla and married her, and fucked her virgin pussy and tasted her honey. The alleged legal Muslim husband, Hassan, immediately began looking for a law enforcement officer at Khartoum International Airport. He saw an ugly police officer idling around with no useful work to do except stare lustfully at the beautiful female passengers while his penis stood inside his khaki uniform like a Ramadan cannon ready to fire into the pussy of any stray female. "Excuse me, police officer," said the groom, Hassan. The lustful lawman angrily shouted at him, "What do you want?" "My name is Hassan Majub al-Halali. I am the son of the most famous politician in the city of Gedaref. My first legal Muslim wife ran away from me with another man. I have here in my possession all the legal papers necessary to substantiate my claim. She is a nauseous wife of a disobedience, fugitive from the ruling of obedience issued by the Sharia court in Gedaref city, and therefore she is required to be arrested by the police. With me is our Sharia Islamic marriage contract and the obedience ruling issued against her by His Eminence, Sharia Court Judge Abdul Mohsen Taha in my hometown. I have just learned through reliable sources that she was seen at this airport and also witnessing the treacherous man she ran away with and cheating on me with him. Most likely they are trying to escape tonight to some other Western foreign country. Look, I don't care who the hell you are or who your father is, and yet I am prepared to do my duty as a faithful servant of the law. But I warn you in advance with these three ugly faces. If, after the necessary search and investigation, you are found to be making a false complaint against innocent people, you and these three criminals will go behind bars with you tonight." "Yes, sir, I am very sure of my complaint." "Where is your Muslim wife who ran away from you, and where is her lover with whom she fled?" "The fucking guy was spotted a few minutes ago by my two bodyguards Nisar and Jaeger. My cheating wife, who's running away from me, is probably hiding in the departure hall. Please follow me and show me where they are hiding." In the meantime, the handsome groom, Sammy, said goodbye to the Christian priest Madahana and to the friend of the Coptic sweet girl Suzanne, the good-looking young man Andre, and headed straight to the police checkpoint office, where his beautiful bride, Intisar, had been arrested a few hours earlier. He does not have a big bag for weight and shipping. He found 2 long lines of passengers. Stop in a queue. As soon as he stood in line, his mind became occupied with many thoughts. He deeply regrets that he will forever leave his beloved country Sudan and emigrate to a foreign, Western land to seek refugee resettlement. His eyes are still welling up with tears from bidding farewell to Pastor Hannah and Andre. He remembers his dear friend, Lawyer Sulla, and his beautiful bride, the first innocent girl, Mona. Sammy had wept bitterly on the phone when he bid them farewell, and they wished him and his beloved girlfriend Intisar a happy life in the Western foreign land to which they were immigrating. His mind is also thinking of his beautiful bride, who is now supposed to be waiting for him at Frankfurt International Airport. What a wonderful joy it is when they meet there in Germany and then sit together side by side in the same plane and continue their long journey to the New World. They will enjoy their journey, cross the Atlantic Ocean, reach their new promised land, and live happily ever after. They will then forget all their suffering and oppression. They will be like the European Christian pilgrims who fled religious persecution in Europe and took refuge in the New World and built the greatest country in the history of mankind, the United States of America, which became the pinnacle of Western civilization. Beloved Sammy believes that he will be like Shah Jahan, the Mughal Muslim emperor who built the Taj Mahal Palace in India in memory of his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal. He will also work hard and build a beautiful home in Canada for his beloved Christian wife, Intisar. Despite the wonderful future that is expected to happen to them in the promised land of Canada, the groom, Sammy, is saddened by the separation of his motherland, Sudan. A mixture of thoughts of joy and sadness clouded his eyes and made him not see what was going on in front of him until an ugly police officer grabbed his right hand and shook him violently, pulling him out of his deep thoughts. Sammy is about to scream and run away when he suddenly sees the enraged police inspector with his rival selfish rejected lover Hassan Satan al-Hilali, the huge Bastia and the other 2 spies standing in front of him like black demons who have risen from hell and transfigured in frightening human forms in front of his naked eyes. Thinking he was sleeping and having a terrifying nightmare, he shook his head to make sure he wasn't hallucinating or dreaming. The vigorous grip of the ugly police officer with his right hand paralyzed his body and made his feet sink into the hard marble floor of the only international airport in all of Sudan. "Can I have a look at your passport?" the ugly police officer asked. Then the trembling hands immigrating lover opened his little bag, brought his travel documents, and handed them to the scary police officer. The officer glanced at them and then asked, "Are you an Eritrean refugee?" "Yes, I am, sir." Then the ugly police officer turned his angry face away from Sammy's handsome face and looked seriously at the hideous face of the rival lover Hassan, the alleged husband of the so-called disobedient, runaway, traitorous, and adulterous wife, Intisar, and the other 3 criminal spies. Before he could say anything, the selfish rival lover quickly tells him he is not telling the truth. He is not an Eritrean refugee man, as he falsely claimed, but he is 100% Sudanese. I know him, and I personally know his father, the wealthy businessman, Mr. Osman Al-Taib. His father and my father are good friends. Can you prove your complaint to me? I told you, sir, that I know him and his family. Neither he nor his father nor his mother is a foreigner. He is not an Eritrean refugee. He is Sudanese like you and me. Listen, Joker, I have no right to prevent anyone from traveling outside Sudan unless he has committed a crime. It is not my duty to check whether he is a refugee or a citizen. This is supposed to be done by the Criminal Investigation Department, not the International Airport Security Police officers. If you don't believe me, officer, ask these 3 gentlemen. They all know him and also know his father, Saud Osman Al-Taib, personally. So far you have not proven your complaint to me, and I have forewarned you of the consequences of making a false complaint against an innocent person, whether he is a citizen or a foreigner or a refugee in Sudan. Well, Airport security police officer, at least ask him about my lawful wife, Intisar. He knows her and persuades her to leave me and run away from me and commit adultery with him, and they both live in a promiscuous and forbidden relationship. I have our legitimate, halal, Islamic marriage contract and a copy of the verdict of obedience issued against my disobedient wife by the judge of the Sharia court in Gedaref city. Then the rival, rejected selfish lover with trembling hands pulled those documents out of his pocket. These, Mr. Police Officer, are true and tangible legal evidence. So please, good security officer, as a faithful servant of the Sudanese law, look at these government-certified marital documents, then arrest him and force him to tell you where he is hiding my traitorous, runaway wife from me. I was not appointed as a security police officer at Khartoum International Airport by the government of Sudan to look into quarrels between rival lovers or disputes between quarreling husbands and wives. My only duty is to protect the traveling passengers from crooks like you and those 3 criminals with you. Then the police officer turned his ugly face to Sammy again and asked him angrily, "Have you seen any of these 4 men before?" "Not at all, sir. I've never seen these 4 people before and don't know what they want from me." "Well, you are not guilty of any crime and you are free to go now and catch your overseas flight." "Thank you very much, sir." "Enjoy your flight, young man." "Thank you, Security Police Officer of Khartoum International Airport. May all other Sudanese people be as good as you. Hurry up, Eritrean refugee, and don't miss your flight. I wish you and your wife Intisar a pleasant flight and a wonderful life abroad." The very frightened and terrified groom Sammy could not believe his ears when the grumpy police officer let him go and wished him a happy escape from the land of persecution and never-ending suffering, and also wished him a wonderful life with his wife Intisar in their promised land. The land overflowing with honey, money, happiness, and good Western people. Therefore, he fled as if fleeing from 4 demons of death, destruction, selfishness, and envy, or Muslim terrorists, and in a few minutes he disappeared among hundreds of passengers. He leaves behind his spurned rival lover Hassan and the 3 ugly spies arguing and begging for mercy from the Sudanese police officer who is as hard-hearted as the ruthless cowboy hero in the movie The Merciless Sartana. When he arrived at the police checkpoint, the migrant groom, Sammy, found no one except another ugly Sudanese police inspector with an angry face. He is the same lustful Sudanese policeman who arrested the immigrant Christian wife, Intisar, hours ago when she refused to bargain with him with her sexy half-naked body by having sex with her as a bribe to let her leave the country without permission from the police of the Eritrean refugee camp in eastern Sudan. "Why did you come so late?" the ugly police inspector shouted. The handsome groom, Sammy, wanted to explain to him the reason for his delay, but the despicable police inspector didn't give him a chance to do so. Instead, he snatched the emergency travel document from his hand and opened it. He found an empty place, and without reading it, he took the seal of Khartoum International Airport of the Sudanese police and hit the paper angrily and put the departure stamp. Then he returned it to the migrant groom, Sammy, and shouted at him, "Go to hell. We don't want useless beggarly Eritrean refugees in our country. Go away from us, you sons of Abyssinia whores, and the daughters of Eritreans, maidservants, who get fucked free of charge. Your desecrated whore daughters are disgracing our country, the free and proud Arab Sudan. May God send you all useless refugees to hell instead of the West." The Eritrean immigrant refugee Sammy, who was resettled in a Western country full of freedom, dignity, justice, and equality for all, did not bother to defend his honor against unjustified abuse and condemnation for attributing him to son who was supposed to be born out of adultery to one of the refugee Eritrean mothers, or that he was a bastard, born to an Abyssinian slut. He pretended not to hear the insults and kept running towards gate number 17. That is the gate that will, within a few minutes, takes him out of the Sudan of hell where his beloved friend Intisar has been horrifically persecuted, terribly wronged, horribly abused, in never-ending torment. She continues to be abused as a human who was born a Muslim woman even now. That night, the rejected lover, the despicable competitor, Hassan Majub al-Hilai, was also arrested, on the same day that his so-called traitorous fugitive Muslim wife, Intisar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, was arrested. She was the beautiful teenage girl who supposedly ditched him and fell in love with the handsome friend, Sami Osman al-Tayyib, because he is the son of the richest man in Gadaref city. Also, his 3 ugly thug spies Tia, Nisar, and Yeager were arrested. The 4 were detained on 2 serious charges. The first charge is filing a false complaint against an innocent Eritrean refugee by trying to prevent him from achieving the golden opportunity of a lifetime to migrate to a secular Christian Western country under which rivers flow with milk and honey and money scattered in the streets like rubbish littered everywhere in Sudan. The second charge, which is more serious than the first lie, is wasting the precious time of the lawman, which, had it not been for that false accusation, could have been used in the service of society in a better way. At last, the spurned lover and egotistical whirlwind were finally thrown behind bars where many of his co-conspirators went before him in shackles. Chapter 76. Instead of flying to heaven, the Christian bride landed in hell. The immigrant Christian wife, Intisar, remained in the detention room at Khartoum International Airport until the police inspector who suspended her ended his shift. Before leaving, he made serious and horrific accusations against her as a detained Eritrean refugee girl. In the indictment, it was stated that she was trying to travel outside the country without a passport and a foreign visa, and had illegal travel papers, which is an act of forgery. She also does not have a permit from the Sudanese police to transfer her from her refugee camp in eastern Sudan and her arrival to Khartoum city illegally. She apparently fled her camp and smuggled herself to the capital city and lived illegally in Khartoum. He also stated that she called him "You are not a man of law, but a despicable low man." Moreover, she had convicted herself and proved her crimes by trying to escape when he wanted to arrest her. 2 policemen ran after her and after 10 minutes of pursuit managed to catch and detain her. Despite her arrest, she continued to bite with her sharp teeth and to kick the 2 police officers with her tall boots. She even cursed them both with many insults. She also called them evil policemen. She behaved violently until they handcuffed her and dragged her to the lockup room. Meanwhile, she was screaming and doing drama inside the international airport like a crazy girl. Her backlash intrigued many Western foreigners and Arab visiting passengers from the Middle East. She intended to draw the attention of these foreign passengers to either help her escape from the Sudanese police or to show a bad image of the authority of the Khartoum International Airport Security Police. Finally, she came in a very shameful and dirty dress, which revealed to many curious onlookers, foreigners and citizens, her little black underwear, her breasts, her buttocks, and even her nakedness, like her ass and her pussy, were revealed. It would have been more respectful if she had come naked inside Sudan's only international airport. She came half naked into the airport. Even young liberal European women and other Western Christians may not wear one of them, no matter how bad and immoral such shameful dress. Once the indictment was filed, the detained Eritrean refugee girl was transferred to another police custody near the international airport. When she arrived at the police station, the female police officer in charge took her travel papers and her handbag. She even stole her US dollars and all her body jewelry when she was arrested. Then she ordered 2 of her policewomen to transfer her to the women's prison. When the imprisoned Christian immigrant bride, Intisar, was thrown into a dark room like a tomb, she could not see anything in front of her or around her. Her eyes are not yet used to seeing in the dark. But her other 4 senses gave her an idea of what was inside the dark room. First, that her nose had inhaled the most foul odor she had ever smelled in her entire life. It is a mixture of urine, feces, liquor, sweating, vomiting, farting, and bad breath. As a result, her stomach immediately reacted and she vomited out of her mouth all the food she had eaten that day. When she had nothing left to vomit, she began to feel nauseous. At the same time, her ears hear some sounds of snoring, moaning, crying, and gnashing of teeth. Those voices revealed to her that there were some living beings dwelling in the place where she had been thrown. But whether they were people, animals, or ghosts, she couldn't tell. To protect herself from these hidden inhabitants, she decides to stay where she stands on the hard ground. When Intisar felt very tired, she sat down slowly and carefully. Her legs are folded together. She hesitated to stretch one of her legs and touch one of the inmates of the cell, and this invisible creature might feel insulted and angry and attacked her and killed her or ate her alive. Then she took out her handkerchief and taped it over her nose and mouth to protect herself from the deadly pestilence that she had inhaled since she was thrown into that bottomless pit. Intisar sat on her feet and hugged her legs for a long time. Her face rests on her knees. Of course, such a situation is not comfortable for her. Whenever she feels the pain in her feet or legs becoming too much to bear, she stands up for a while, and when standing becomes painful too, she sits down again. She has done this forced, torturing push-up and sit-up exercise multiple times and for an extremely long time. She understood that she had to spend her first night in that dark abyss, standing and sitting. However, her physical pain is nothing compared to her mental state since the time of her arrest at the international airport. The first thought that torments her mind and heart is that her plan to escape the hell of Sudan with her beloved husband, Sammy, has failed. Secondly, her husband may go out of the country without knowing that the airport police have arrested her. Thirdly, the police may discover that she is a Sudanese girl who falsely acquired another nationality. The police will also discover that she has deceived several foreign diplomats and obtained these travel documents through her lies. Fourth, the police may know that she is a disobedient Muslim wife who is fleeing from the verdict of obedience and therefore wanted by the Gaddafi police. Fifth, and it is the most serious offense, that the police might discover her apostasy from Islam and conversion to Christianity. When she was arrested, she was carrying her baptismal certificate and secret Christian marriage contract inside her handbag, which had been seized by the police. Sixth, her marriage contract document with Sammy will reveal their secret Christian marriage. Thus, they will be condemned as apostate Muslims and hanged to death. Seventh, Christian priest Madahana and his Coptic family will face serious religious and legal problems when the police discover that they encouraged their apostasy from Islam, their conversion to Christianity, their secret Christian marriage, and their obtaining the nationalities of another country through forgery. Eighth, her good and beloved Christian friend Susan Hannah may go to prison if the police discover that she is the mastermind behind everything that Intisar did in order to change her nationality and through deception obtain those official documents, and her attempt to flee from Sudan to Canada with those travel papers. She expects that the corrupt Sudanese policemen may torture and gang rape her beautiful Coptic friend Susie inside one of the prison's ghost houses. Ninth, the beautiful and sexy bride, Intisar, also expected to be tortured and gang raped by the same Sudanese policemen. She had heard many horrific stories of teenage girls who were severely beaten and violently raped in prison. Nevertheless, Intisar decided that no matter what the police might do to her, she would not implicate the good Coptic Christian family in her charges. Even if they cut her body to bits or raped her 100 times, she would not drag her Christian friend Suzanne to her charges. Moreover, she hopes in her heart that her husband, Sammy, will leave their hellish country and immigrate to the West. 10th, if she is not convicted of apostasy and killed as an apostate Muslim girl, the police may take her to the house of obedience to her alleged lawful Muslim husband, Hassan. He will rape her every day and turn her into a submissive wife and perpetual sex slave. All these thoughts have been tormenting her mind since she was arrested by that vile policeman who tried to bargain with her to cancel her trip and allow him to have sex with her. Intisar knows that she would rather die than allow a man other than her beloved husband, Sammy, to own her body and have sex with her. That's why she didn't regret her decision not to bargain with that evil cop. The detained Eritrean refugee migrant, Intisar, was taken to that dark abyss at midnight. She spent the first 3 hours struggling with her physical, mental, and psychological torture. She still has 3 long hours to go before dawn breaks. She is starting to feel sleepy due to her lack of sleep the night before. She tried hard to resist her sleepiness. She is afraid of the consequences of sleeping in such a dark room. She is finally overcome by her stress. Fall asleep and wake up every now and then. Her sleep is like a chicken sleeping on a rope or a person sleeping in a fast car. Whenever she slept, her tired body would fall either to the left or to the right or forward or backward. Whenever she is about to fall on her face, she wakes up and then falls asleep again. The refugee girl caught at the airport spent the remaining 3 hours dozing off, then waking up in a panic as if she was in the middle of a nightmare. When the rays of the new morning rose, the detained immigrant Christian bride woke up suffering from a severe headache. She also has a fever. Her body is shaking. She is sweating profusely as if her body is in a steam bath or sauna. She feels like throwing up, but there is nothing left in her stomach for her to vomit. She cried bitterly when she remembered the nights she spent sleeping comfortably in the home of the good Coptic family. As a beautiful Christian bride, she remembered the fun and wonderful nights she spent in the hotel room with her handsome groom, Sammy, during their honeymoon. Loving Copts are the ones who generously spent a lot of money on their wedding, their honeymoon in the luxurious hotel, and their farewell party. At about 6 o'clock in the morning, the bride, Intisar, finally woke up from her painful sleep. She opened her eyes wide to see where she was being held. When she saw the inmates in that abyss, she wished in her heart that they were animals and not human females like her. For they do not differ much in their outward appearance from the wild beasts of the forest. Even if they are pets or jungle animals, they should not be kept in such inhumane conditions. The beasts in the zoo are kept in clean cages and fed properly. The dirty faces of those inmates are disfigured, and their eyes are red and full of filth. Each one's hair is not combed properly. Their clothes are torn and full of filth and blood. Some of them are in dirty rags. Some of them are not in their normal senses due to drug overdoses and consuming too much homemade liquor. Some of them are crazy and do crazy things. Some faces appear to be beggars and other faces reveal homeless females and idle street girls. All these human beings are women. They are homeless girls, prostitutes, murderers, street sex peddlers, thieves, and similar criminals. There is hardly any face between them that can reveal innocence. Most of them are from South Sudan or the Nuba Mountains. The rest, with the exception of the Christian bride, Intisar, are female detainees whose origins are from the western regions of Sudan, such as Darfur and Kurdistan. She wonders why the suspects and criminals are always from those 3 regions of her country. Why are the Sudanese women who live in the eastern region of Sudan like her, and in the northern region and the Jazeera province in the center of the country, good and righteous? Why should the former women be born criminals and the others be born decent citizens? Although most of them have African features, why are some of them called slaves or niggers, and some are called free Arab women, and their sons should be masters and rulers of Sudan? The detained runaway wife could not find answers to her inquiries, nor could she understand why she was asking such unanswerable questions. Intisar found herself like a lotus that had suddenly grown amidst a swamp of filthy stagnant water and tombs full of dead bones. She is the only Arab girl while all the other detained women are Afro-Sudanese. The early rays of the sun revealed to her those fearful and terrible faces. She became very terrified of their miserable conditions. As she looked at them with fear and trembling, she began to see some of them doing incredibly disgusting things before her naked eyes. Some pee, some vomit, and some do other things only stray animals can do in the open. Intisar closed her eyes and started crying. She wondered how the Khartoum Police Authority could treat people in such an inhuman way by not even allowing them to go to the toilets. How can they lock up the female citizens of the country in such a filthy place? It is dirtier than the dirtiest cesspool or garbage container in Sudan. Even animals will not be treated like this in other countries. The beautiful bride, Intisar, could not believe that her great hope and promise to go with her handsome bridegroom, Sammy, to the promised land, would deteriorate to such a low level. Instead of flying to heaven, she landed in hell. She wished she would have died by suicide in the Nile River that Sunday instead of being on the cusp of life and landing in such a filthy place. Since her arrest, her heart has been filled with anger and bitterness towards the vile police inspector who stopped her at Khartoum International Airport and sent her to this hellish detention. She asked herself over and over again why she was always suffering and tormented. What crime has I committed in life deserves punishment everywhere I go. Intisar wished in her heart to meet some good police officers who would believe her words when she told them what that despicable policeman wanted. And then they would release her and let her go and resume her journey abroad, and it would all be just a bad dream. Hours passed slowly, one after another, like centuries. Morning came and went, and noon came dragging its seconds very slowly. Noon is the most terrible time of the day. The dark room has no windows. It was getting hotter and more miserable as the day continued to grow. There is no fresh air to breathe anymore. The stench intensified. The people of hell were sweating so hard, as if they were burning in hell. Some of them farted continuously as if they had diarrhea and thus pooped in their dirty, tattered clothes. Their bodies give off a foul odor, like that of corpses left unburied until they decomposed and putrefied. In such inhumane, horrible, intolerable conditions, the apostate Muslim girl who had become a Christian infidel spent her second day until evening. By this time, she is supposed to be with her handsome groom Sammy in the city of Toronto in the promised land of Canada flowing with milk, honey, and money. Instead, she finds herself in hell with the worst female suspects in the women's lockup in Khartoum. If she was asked to choose before being detained at the international airport, she might have preferred to be in her grave next to her late sister, the second innocent girl Firdos, than to be thrown into this hellish prison of Sudanese women. Sleeping on top of the tomb of her late sister with the remains of the other dead people and among spooky zombies was 100 times better than spending the night detained among those scary faces of the living dead women in this dark lockup cave. Night is much better than day for the detailed bride Intisar. The darkness of the night hid from her eyes those miserable black faces. In addition, darkness closed the mouths of these female detainees. Many of them either slept or fell into a coma due to the heat, or became submerged into unconsciousness as a result of the severe beatings of the harsh policewomen who arrested them, or they died and were gone forever. As soon as dawn broke, these female suspects emerged from their slumber, stupefied by alcohol and the effects of drugs. From their mouths began to utter obscene words. They said the dirtiest human language Intisar has never heard or expected to hear one day. To protect her morals, she not only closed her mouth and nose with her handkerchief, but also closed her ears with her fingers. In order to keep this book G-rated, we will not mention a single word of their insults, obnoxious curses, and vulgarity. Anyway, around 6 p.m., Intisar began to feel hunger pangs. Her hunger made her notice some strange phenomena of the inhabitants of the abyss. From the time she was cast into that inferno until she became hungry, she had not seen any of the women of the dark dungeon eat food or drink water. So, Intisar marveled at their ability to survive without these basic necessities of human existence. She wonders if these women were deliberately left to starve to death. Her conclusion is confirmed by seeing the starved faces of some of them. Yet, she would rather die of starvation than eat or drink in such a filthy place. Another strange phenomenon of the place of torment that Intisar also noticed concerns the new arrivals. Ever since she awoke from her painful sleep, she has seen every now and then no less than 3 to 6 newcomers being dragged down by huge policewomen and thrown into the dark abyss. At sunset that day, the dark room was filled to the point that there was no room left for the new detainees to enter and sit or stand on. Intisar became very worried about what might happen if this filling continued for another 24 hours. Many of the suspected women became stuffed inside the darkroom like sardines in cans or eggs in cardboard boxes. There is no place left for the apple to fall. The detained Christian bride had long ago had to stand on her feet because there was nowhere for her to sit. Some new females are dead drunk from drinking strong homemade alcohol or drugged with drugs such as stones. Some of the girls were severely beaten in the face by police clubs, had their clothes torn, and had their blood on them. Some of the prostitutes who were arrested while roaming the streets could not walk on their feet because of the severe beatings, and then they were dragged like tree trunks by the policewomen and thrown into the place of affliction and suffering. Some of the detained women suffer from open wounds and profuse bleeding. Some of these suspects are dying and some of the women have died, and their souls have departed from their dead corpses. Intisar wondered why seriously wounded women and dying females were not taken to hospital emergency intensive care units. At 7 in the evening, the so-called runaway, disobedient Muslim wife who was arrested at the international airport saw 4 policewomen standing in front of the door of the bottomless abyss. They were in their police khaki uniforms. One of them took out a large key from her pocket and opened the door to hell. She is like the angel of death who came out of hell to release Satan and his demons from the bottomless pit. Then Intisar saw the 4 huge policewomen make their way into the windowless cell. By then the darkened room was filled to capacity. To allow such large policewomen to enter, the detained women of the dark cave had to band together. The bodies of unlucky female suspects like Intisar, who were standing near the solid concrete 4 walls, were smashed and crushed. She's breathing hard. She raised her feet against her will from the ground. She began to fight for her survival. She knows if those huge elephant women prolong their abode in the dark pit, she will surely breathe her last and her soul will leave her body and come out of the place of pain and anguish. If such an agonizing death should occur, Intisar would prefer it to spending another night in that hellish grave. One of the 4 policewomen holds a list of names in her hand. She started reading aloud the names from her list. When each name was called, its owner was asked to come out. Intisar had hoped in her heart that her name would be blacklisted, for she thought wherever they would take them or whatever they would do to them it would be less cruel than spending another night in such a dark, filthy cave which was worse than the den of wild beasts such as lions and lionesses and their little cubs. The policewoman kept reading her list until she came to Intisar's name. "Yes, ma'am," exclaimed the detained bride. The policewoman shouted, "Come here, you street whore girl." Intisar somehow managed to get out with great difficulty. While she was leaving, she heard another policewoman shouting at her, saying, "Wait a minute." Intisar paused and slowly turned her face towards the 4 policewomen. When she stood in front of them and took a closer look at their faces and bodies, she thought they were men in women's clothing. She had never seen women who looked like men like these 4 policewomen. They have large faces, boobs, noses, mouths, lips, ears, hands, legs, heads, and ridiculously huge bodies. The only small things are their red, fire-breathing eyes. Each of these 4 policewomen is more massive than 3 times the size of Intisar's body. "Are you the Eritrean refugee girl Intisar, who was arrested at the international airport?" asking the top policewoman among the 4 female elephants. "Yes, I am, ma'am." "So, you're the filthy Eritrean refugee whore who told the International Airport Security Police Inspector Alamin Abdulkafar Abdul Sadar, you're not a lawman but a despicable lawman." The Eritrean accused, Intisar, remained silent. She fears she will be shot and killed on the spot if she confesses to the charge. "Tonight, I'm gonna make you kiss my feet naked and pee in your panties, you dirty street bitch." "I'm not a whore. Please, constable, don't address me like that." "Shut up, you fucking dirty Eritrean street hooker." Then she grabbed Intisar's hand and pulled her out of the place of distress, pain, anguish, and agony. After that, she pushed her into a police wagon. The policewoman also jumped up and sat down next to her. Intisar knew that the giant woman in police khaki meant evil to her. She started trembling with fear, dread, despair, and panic. She is terrified even more than the innocent girl who has been tried and sentenced to death and knows that this is the last day of her life and these big policewomen are going to take her to the gallows. Chapter 77. The disobedient Muslim wife is interrogated by angels of death. The police wagon that transported the Eritrean refugee suspect Intisar and other female detainees resembles those iron trucks that zoo workers used to bring in wild beasts such as tigers, lions, hyenas, buffaloes, elephants, rhinos, hippopotamuses, crocodiles, wolves, and other cannibals and carnivores. No female detainee can dream of escaping from that mobile prison. When Intisar climbed the police iron cage, she found it crowded with other inmates from the dark room. The detainees brought with them the stench of the mass grave in which they were buried, and then they were exhumed. Intisar had to squeeze herself between 2 huge policewomen. She became like a little girl sitting between 2 fat women. The police carriage moved as soon as the arrested Christian bride got into it. The wagon got out of police custody and entered the crowded streets of Khartoum City. Intisar does not know where they will take them, except that she knows that the 4 big policewomen intended evil for them. The circumstances in which the beautiful Christian bride found herself did not allow her to think of her handsome groom Sammy and the loving Coptic family. She is constantly worried about what will happen to her if the police discover her true identity. If they find out that she is a Muslim who converted to Christianity, her life and all her dreams will end. She was either hanged on the gallows or stoned to death. As the carriage drives, her eyes look across the iron grid at the capital city's triangular streets. She sees many teenage girls her age walking alone. She recalled her experience of wandering alone as a homeless girl on those streets without money, shelter, food, or shoes. However, she preferred those difficult days to her current situation. At that time, she still enjoyed her freedom. In those days, she could escape from the police and those who tried to rape her. Today, she has handcuffs on her hands and shackles around her feet. In addition, they are guarded by dangerous policewomen armed to the teeth. It took 40 minutes for the iron wagon to reach its final destination. All of the detainees were pushed down or pulled like sheep off the metal cage cart by the 4 policewomen. When Intisar was taken out, the first thing that caught her eye was the name of the place to which she had been brought. She saw in large letters written on the Iron Gate Cooper Central Women's Prison. Intisar heard many horrific stories about that prison. It is the place where many notorious criminals were hanged, many famous politicians were tortured to death, and many innocent people were falsely accused and imprisoned for many years without trial. Some prisoners died before they could finish half of their terms. Many prisoners came out of this prison mentally and psychologically ill. Girls and boys were raped by the police interrogators and jail guards and their fellow prison inmates. Some people entered this prison as innocent suspects and got out as dangerous criminals. Some teenage girls went as virgins and either became pregnant or gave birth to illegitimate children inside the prison. The daughter of a well-known wealthy family in Khartoum City entered prison as a virgin and was released with 2 children from the so-called Al-Ad Haram babies. When she saw the name of the horrific prison, Intisar wished that she was actually dead rather than still alive to enter this notorious place of detention. She thought that the brothel of the pimp, the mother Nafisa, and the house of bondage of the cruel wife Mrs. Al-Sinasni would be better for her than this notorious prison. There she can fight and run away when someone wants to rape her. In prison, she will be powerless. She can't fight and win against female vigilantes or notorious criminals. She knows that the detainee will be shot if she tries to escape. She even wished she hadn't heard the Christian church bells ring on Sunday when she tried to end her life in the raging waters of the Nile River. If she had not heard them, she would have died and gone forever, not witnessing such a black day. She asked herself why God did not intervene and save her from the despicable policemen who unjustly arrested her and prevented her from escaping from the hell of Sudan. Her eyes welled up with tears when the large policewoman grabbed her hand and dragged her inside the high-security prison building. She is the same evil cop who threatened to make her kiss her bare feet and urinate in her panties. What an evil woman to threaten such an innocent girl like her with such dirty words. She is also another vile policewoman in the Sudanese police force. Then the huge policewoman took the detained Christian bride down a very narrow corridor. They have to bow their heads to pass across the low entrance. Rumors said that the British gentleman Mr. Kobar, who created the notorious prison in the capital city of Sudan, made that low passage so that each Sudanese police officer and local detainee had to bow down their heads to him when they walk in. He would be sitting in his office with his big mustache, which makes him look like White Devil, and facing the entrance and seeing Sudanese bowing their bodies to him as if he is a master and they are his slaves. When they entered a small room, the Christian bride was given a piece of paper and asked to read it. The paper contains the charges written against her by the police inspector who arrested her at Khartoum International Airport. She has attempted to contest the charges and clarify the facts, but has not been given the opportunity to do so. Then she was taken to another small room. 2 large policewomen escorted her into that room. Then she was forcibly tied to a wooden chair. Before they tied her up, they stripped her of her little shirt and short panties. She was left only in her black underwear and red bra. Intisar started to tremble in extreme panic, thinking that the two policewomen had set her up so that someone would come and rape her. She heard many horrifying stories of teenage girls who were gang raped by police officers during their interrogation. When they finished tying it up, the two policewomen turned off the lights and left. The small room became as dark as a tomb. Intisar opened her eyes as wide as she could but couldn't even see her own body. Darkness engulfed her. This terrible darkness reminded her of some of the religious stories she had learned in school about suffering in the torment of the grave. She was told that the grave was so dark that she would not be able to see her hand even if she placed it over her face or taped it over her eyes. After that, the interrogating angels Munkar and Nakar will suddenly appear before her eyes in snow-white and shining clothes. Her female teacher in the Islamic education class also told her that she would be resurrected from her belly button and above. Her buttocks, circumcised pussy, rectum, thighs, hips, legs, and feet will remain dead so that she will not dream of escaping from these angels of death. The first question they will ask her is, "Who is your God?" If she said something other than Allah, they would hit her on the head. Their blows were so powerful that they would make her sink deep into the earth. They will put their hands in and pull her out. Then they shall ask her, "Who is your prophet?" If she says other than the master of creation, the Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Kilab, who was sent as a mercy to mankind, they will beat her until she urinates in her grave. Then they will ask her, "How were you with your neighbor?" Any negative answer will send her back underground. She should not try to deceive them. The religious schoolteacher told her that everything she did or said in her life was written on her left shoulder as her bad deeds and on her right shoulder as her good deeds. This time, the powerful blow will make her sink to the bottom of the planet Earth for a distance of 200 years travel on foot. As before, they would extract her and continue their harsh interrogation method. Their harsh interrogation method is harsher than waterboarding technique which was used in the Guantanamo Bay detention center that had been applied while questioning the worst Muslim terrorists in the world. After that, the two angels of death will ask her how her relationship is with her relatives, such as her parents, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, cousins, grandparents, and other close associates, friends, and opponents. Any other negative answer will send her back underground. If she fails their difficult test, they will hand her over to the bald-headed snake. The length of this terrible hairless serpent is a 1,000-year journey on foot. He will bite and torment her continuously until the day of resurrection or the last day of judgment in the resurrection of the dead from their graves who will come out naked and barefoot. The detained Christian bride Intisar remained for half an hour wondering who will come to her first, her rapists from among the human race, or the angels of death, Munkar and Nakar. Half an hour later none of them came except the big female police detectives. If Intisar knew how vicious and heartless the female interrogators are, she would have preferred the other two groups even if they had to gather all in the tomb-like interrogation room and rape and torture her forever. These Sudanese women in police khaki are tougher than the Hell's Angels. Half an hour later, the door to the darkened room opened like exhuming her remains out of a tomb. Then Intisar saw some dark shadows creep in. And those shadows reminded her of some scary stories about goblins and ghosts. She thought maybe she was thrown into one of the police ghost houses she heard about. When the door was closed again, Intisar began to hear voices without seeing the creepy creatures whispering to her in human language. Although the door was closed, she knew that the ghosts had not left. Their presence and whispers filled the little tomb with evil spirits and created panic in her heart. She now opened her eyes as wide as possible to see those spooky ghosts, but she couldn't see any creature. As her eyes opened wide, she suddenly felt tongues of fire resembling a flash of lightning attacking her eyes. Unbearable pain swept through her eyes and entered her body. If someone had stabbed her in the eye with a sharp knife or thrown chili powder in her face, he might not have caused her as much pain as she is now experiencing. As a result, Intisar started screaming loudly. As she was screaming, she heard the ghosts laughing. She tried to use her hands to calm the pain, but she couldn't because both of her hands were tied. Although her eyes remained closed, she could still feel intense light passing through them. Its heat and radiance burned the skin of her face like a hot iron. Intisar's face turned left and right. As she tried to avoid the blazing light, she began to hear the ghost speaking again in human language. "Listen to us, you dirty Abyssinian bitch." Intisar immediately determined that the sound was none other than that of that huge policewoman who threatened her earlier by saying that she would make her kiss her feet while she was naked and urinate in her underwear. "We don't have time to waste with you. We have got a lot of damned suspects like you for questioning tonight. So, tell us quickly, how did you enter the Sudanese capital city without the permission of the police permit or your refugee camp papers that allowed you to get out?" Even though she couldn't see her figure, Intisar still remembered the huge body of the policeman disguised as a policewoman. Before that evil police cop could carry out her threat, Intisar decided to be careful in answering her question so that she could avoid the wrath of that cruel officer. Intisar said with fear, "I came with my police permit papers to the Sudanese capital city, but I lost them." "What is the name of the refugee camp from which those papers were issued?" "Listen, you dirty Eritrean bitch, before you answer my question, I warn you beforehand. If you give us any wrong information, you will pay a heavy price for it. We will investigate any information you provide to us." Intisar knows that she is now facing a serious problem. There are 36 refugee camps in eastern Sudan, but she does not know the name of any of them. Once they cross the border and enter into the camps, refugees do not have freedom of movement in their host country, but are required to obtain movement permits, known as police clearance passes, issued by the United Nations, or host country government police. Intisar is now in trouble. She can't just create any fancy camp name and answer the question. She knows that these female interrogators may investigate any information she gives them. However, Intisar made some quick reply which she thought would satisfy the huge policewoman. "I didn't get police clearance papers from any camp. The Sudanese police gave them to me when I crossed the border." Intisar felt a strong stick hit her back. It caused so much pain as if a blazing iron had struck her butt and bare back. She started screaming and violently struggling to free herself from the ropes. But her struggle was in vain. Another strong blow fell on the same place and caused unbearable pain. Third strike, fourth strike, and 10th strike. The policewoman who beats her seems to have gone into an uncontrollable frenzy. She continued hitting Intisar's naked body with several blows. Her screams seemed to turn her executioner into a fit of rage. "Shut your mouth, you filthy Eritrean street whore. If you don't shut your filthy mouth, I will tear it open and flay your skin." The defendant, Intisar, had to stop screaming. Her body was sweating and her blood was bleeding profusely. Like a reed, every part of her body trembled. She felt as if her back and shoulders were on fire. The fire burns her body, even though she can't see or smell it. She feels just like someone swimming in molten lava. The huge policewoman screamed in a frightening voice like an angry ogre. The Sudanese police at the Ethiopian border are not entitled to issue such papers. Only the Camp Authority police can issue exit permit papers for refugees. "So now tell us how you got out of your camp and got here in the city." "I left the camp in Kassala City and arrived on a bus in Khartoum City." This time Intisar felt a strong hand grab her hair and pull it. She felt that the skin on her head might peel off and her hair might be pulled out. If the evil policewoman keeps pulling her hair, she might break her neck too. As Intisar struggled to save her neck from being broken by the cruel huge woman, she felt a hand as big as a cricket bat slam into her face. Every tooth and molar in her mouth started to bleed profusely. Her nose bone was also broken and she could no longer breathe normally. Her nose is pouring blood like a faucet or a broken and running water tap. Her mouth is also not helping her to breathe. She felt suffocated and could die at any moment. For a few minutes her soul struggled to leave her body. One of the ruthless female interrogators poured cold water on her head and face. Whether it was some kind of torture, mercy, or even a slow killing, only God knows. But the icy water prevented her soul from leaving her severely beaten body. However, the cold water did more harm than good. The fallen water washed all the makeup off her face. Whatever her Coptic friend Susan did to hide her true Sudanese identity was washed away by this cold water. Now the Eritrean girl has been transformed back into a Sudanese girl. Ladies, look, what do we have here? One of the policewomen shouted. This is not an Eritrean girl. She is like all of us is probably a Sudanese girl. The disguised girl heard these words as if they were coming from another world, far away, but they scared her to death. Intisar understood that the Sudanese policewomen had known her true identity. Tell us about yourself, you lying bitch. Are you a Sudanese citizen or an Eritrean refugee girl in Sudan? Intisar said, panting, I am a foreign girl, a refugee from Eritrea. But your tongue is an Arabic tongue. So how do you speak the Arabic language fluently? No Eritrean girl can speak Arabic as fluently as you unless she was born and raised in Sudan. This last question put Intisar in serious trouble. She knows that no matter how she explains her position, she will not satisfy the investigator by giving a correct answer to the question. If she says that she is an Eritrean girl who was born and raised in Sudan, this justifies her eloquent Arabic language, but it will make her deserving of Sudanese citizenship by birth. In this case, she has no right to request refugee status in Sudan. If she did so, it means that she provided false information to United Nations officials in Khartoum City. In addition, the policewomen began to doubt her identity as an Eritrean refugee girl. The accused decided to remain silent. But silence is the worst answer a suspect can give to a police interrogator in Sudan. One of the female investigators lit a candle and began to burn Intisar's naked body. Another huge woman in police khaki uniform threatened to pull out her nails. The painful burning on her naked body made the accusing girl scream loudly. Her loud crying enraged the man disguised as a woman, and she roared like an angry lioness and grabbed Intisar's hair and pulled it against her huge chest. While she is howling like a hyena or the raised zombie, her vile mouth foams like a raging camel and her huge body sweats as if she was sitting naked in a sauna. The policeman who disguised himself as a policewoman has two breasts the size of two soccer balls or two big black watermelons. As a result, the suspect's nose, mouth, ears, and face were completely buried in her large chest and hidden between the two fleshy basketballs of the huge elephant woman. The accused immigrant girl, Intisar, felt that the dinosaur woman wanted to kill her by suffocating her to death. She almost died before the tough policewoman let go of her face. It's a much tougher police interrogation method than waterboarding. 5 times the evil policewoman repeated that cruel and inhuman method of extracting information from a suspect. Every time Intisar felt as if the huge woman wanted to press her face to her chest and kill her in such a cruel way. Meanwhile, the policewoman's massive body sweats as if she is in hell being tormented for her evil deeds. Her sweat stinking like bitter urine inside Intisar's nostrils and mouth each time she pulled her into huge chest and buried her face between her two soccer ball-like breasts. Her police khaki uniform stinks, as if she hasn't washed her dirty body in over a month. This is the cruelest torment any detained girl falsely accused can go through. Even the hardened hearts of ISIS terrorists who shouted Allah Akbar while slaughtering their helpless victims have not yet invented such cruel torture to kill their enemies. Muslim terrorists cut off the heads of their victims, burned them with fire in cages, and buried them alive in mass graves. But what those cruel elephantic female interrogators do to the innocent suspect Intisar is 10 times crueler than the terrorists of the Islamic Caliphate in Syria and Boko Haram in Nigeria. Killing her by strangulation is better than killing her by holding her breath inside a huge human chest bigger than any bed pillow in the world. After all these kinds of cruel torture, a heavy slap hit Intisar's right cheek and made her feel like she was hit with a big hammer. Her jaw was dislocated, her cheeks froze, her eyes blinded. Her body became numb and paralyzed, as if she had been hit by a poisonous bullet in the face from point-blank range. Meanwhile, the burning candle resumed its torture, and this time began moving up and down on Intisar's naked back. She also began to feel a sharp needle or nail inserted between her fingernail and the flesh of her finger. This last type of torture caused her to begin to reveal her true identity. As a result, while she was panting for her breath and her stuttering words, Intisar said in a low voice, "I am an orphan girl. We don't care if your goddamn dad or your whore mom or both of your parents are dead. Tell us, are you a Sudanese girl or an Eritrean refugee? I am an Eritrean girl. If you are an Eritrean young woman, you must speak Tigrinya language. What a pity the suspect Sudanese girl had never heard of this language before. Intisar knew and understood that if she falsely claimed that she knew the Tigrinya language, the policewoman might ask her to speak it or bring an Eritrean interpreter and ask her to speak with her. I do not speak any language other than Arabic. How can you be an Eritrean girl when you do not know the language of Eritreans? Tell us the truth about yourself, and I will ask you for the last time, are you a Sudanese girl or an Eritrean girl? Intisar kept silent. This time, one of her cruel interrogators began to use a sharp metal to remove her nails and pull them out from her thin fingers. The pain became unbearable. So, the detained Christian bride decided to tell them all about herself. She preferred death than to continue such an intolerable torture to which they subjected her body. I am a Sudanese girl by birth. Why, then, did you fake another nationality and falsely claimed that you were an Eritrean girl? I was born into a Sudanese Arab family and raised up in the city of Gedaref. My father died when I was 7 years old. When I was 17 years old, I fell in love with a boy from the same city. He is from a rich and great family in our society, and I am from a poor and ordinary family. His rich father objected to our love affair because his son is from a rich family and my parents are from a poor family. In order to prevent us from marrying, his father conspired with my older half-brother and married me to another man whom I did neither love nor did I want to marry. The rich father paid a lot of money to my criminal brother Omar to make him sell me in a sham Islamic halal marriage to another Muslim man as if I were a slave for sale. Because I refused to acknowledge such an unacceptable forced arranged marriage, my alleged Muslim husband filed a complaint against me in the Sharia court. The judge of the Sharia court issued an obedience judgment against me. When I learned that the police authority would come the next morning to my house and take me by force to his place, or what is called the House of Obedience, I fled at night from my mother's home and traveled by truck. I disguised myself as a boy to escape from the spies hired by my alleged husband and father of my lover to stop me from fleeing from the verdict of obedience that issued against me by the judge of the Islamic court in my native town. Then I came alone, disguised as a young man, to the city of Khartoum. I spent 3 days and 3 nights wandering the streets of the triangular capital city of Sudan without shelter, money, food, or shoes on my feet. My miserable fate finally took me to a loving Sudanese family who sheltered me, fed me, and took care of me until the day I went to the international airport and was about to immigrate to Canada as a resettled Eritrean refugee girl. Before that, my lover Sammy came from the city of Gedaref to the city of Khartoum and joined me and lived with me in the same house of the generous family that used to take care of me. Shortly after that we got married. My husband, Sammy, was also supposed to travel abroad with me on the same day I was arrested at Khartoum International Airport. This is not the whole truth. The huge police interrogator screamed in an angry voice like an ogre. You must tell us how you became a Christian girl? We found in your handbag your baptism and marriage certificates, which show that you converted from Islam, became a Muslim apostate infidel, converted to Christianity, and got married as a Christian bride inside the church. Even though you admitted that you are a Muslim wife married to a Muslim man, and the Sharia court in Gedaref city issued a verdict of obedience against you. The apostate Muslim girl who converted to Christianity once again found herself faced with a serious dilemma. She knows that the time has come for her to either reject her conversion to Christianity or to acknowledge it and face the challenge of conviction by sentence of apostasy. She cannot claim to be a Christian by birth because she has already told them that her first Islamic marriage was dealt with in the Sharia court. Moreover, her full name includes a Muslim name. No Christian family would give the name Mustafa to their son because it is one of the names of the Prophet Muhammad. In addition, Intisar remembered that she had read in the Holy Gospel or Injil that Jesus Christ said to his disciples, "If you deny me in front of people, I will deny you in front of my Father." She cannot deny the Lord Jesus Christ and continue to be a Christian. She remained silent at first, But when the policewoman's huge hand gripped her hair and began to pull at it, then repeated her ruthless technique of plunging her face into the huge bosom and between the two spherical breasts and sweating inside her nose and mouth. The suspect Intisar was forced to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I became a Christian girl in order to marry my friend Sammy. Who is that Christian priest, Ghassan Gasha, who baptized you with water and helped you to convert to Christianity? He is a foreign Christian priest who came as a visitor to Sudan from Lebanon. Where does he live now? He now lives in Beirut City. And who is that Coptic priest named Madahana who performed your Christian marriage with your lover Sammy? I don't know who he is. Sammy and I entered his church and asked him to marry us to each other. Did he know that you are a married Muslim girl and you have another husband? Then you abandoned Islam and converted to Christianity? Not at all. We just lied to him and told him we were Eritrean Christian refugees. We will investigate your apostasy from Islam and your conversion to Christianity, and if we learn later that you lied to us, we will make you wish you were not born a Muslim girl. What I told you is the whole truth, ma'am. And then you and your lover Sammy went and applied for refugee status and resettlement in Canada. Yes, we did that, ma'am. Do you admit that you and your lover faked the nationalities of another country and then lied to many foreign dip Canada, in Sudan, and illegally obtained all the travel papers to Canada? Our circumstances forced us to forge Eritrean nationalities and become refugees in our motherland, Sudan, and through that obtain immigration papers and resettlement of the refugees in Canada. You mean to tell us that your crazy love for the son of a rich man made you abandon your legal Muslim husband, run away from the law, be displaced from your family and home, abandon your Islamic religion, and become an infidel, apostate Christian girl? After that you went to church and got married as a Christian wife even though you are already a Muslim wife who married another Muslim man, and then you went to many foreign diplomats in Khartoum City and lied to them. I did all of these things because I love Sammy and I don't want to live with a man I don't love him or chose him to be my husband. You mean to say that you love Sammy more than you love your God, your prophet, your religion, and your country, Sudan? I didn't mean to say that, ma'am. I have always loved my God and my country more than I love myself. Do you know that according to the law of this Muslim country you are guilty of apostasy, adultery, forgery, bigamy, deceit, and betrayal? Moreover, you are the first young Sudanese criminal in a Muslim country to marry two men at the same time, one of whom is a Muslim and the other a Christian. So, you practice the abomination of polyandry in a Muslim land, which is the adulterous crime of marrying more than one husband at the same time. Only Muslim men are allowed by the Holy Quran to practice polygamy or marrying more than one wife at the same time, but not to exceed 4 wives. The immigrant Christian bride, who was arrested in the interrogation process, Intisar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, responded to these serious religious accusations by crying and pleading for mercy, but her pleas are like water poured on solid rocks. Then the police inspector, Sakina Khalifallah Abd al-Din, shouted, "You policewomen, can you untie her now from the ropes, and then put on her naked body again, her scandalous, shameful, and dirty Christian dress designed for Abyssinian sluts and Eritrean cheap maids.